Let's talk about that scoundrel Hank Paulson. He was in the news this week, making some bold statements.
Yeah, well, this kind of reminds me, when you brought up this the situation from Guantanamo Bay where, what was it, 2 or 3 years ago, when those 3 guys, quote-unquote, committed suicide all at the same time, within an hour of each other, in the middle of the night.
By handcuffing themselves and hanging themselves and all that?
Yeah, the death certificate said they were handcuffed and their feet bound, but they, during that time, somehow killed themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But remember at the time, how angry the spokespeople from the military, the Department of Defense, the Pentagon were like, this is asymmetric warfare. We take this as an attack on us. Mm-hmm. And they were very convincing that this was an attack on them. But now it emerges that they actually were murdered.
Right,
these 3 people.
Right.
But this reminds me of Hank Paulson's accusations in front of Congress this past week, saying, Russia and China were trying to take down our economy, and that's why we had to take it down. They were the ones taking it down.
That's right. Oh, the Hank Paulson was telling people that Russia was trying to get China to sell Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac bonds to try to disrupt the American economy.
Yes, so he's alleging that somehow they have high-level information from unnamed sources that Russia was trying to get China to sell the Fannie and Freddie bonds in order to force America to rescue them.
Right, that's right.
It wasn't, remember, it's a war on prudence. It wasn't just prudent economic sense for them to dump these bonds.
No.
It must have been, must have been some nefarious reason for it.
This
was an attack on us. It wasn't because of our bogus products.
On American values. It had nothing to do with economics.
No.
The fact that you had trailer trash, living on the edge of a cliff in a $3 million trailer, collateralized by a pea. It had nothing to do with it. By frozen brick of peas in the freezer, that was the collateral supporting a $3 million mortgage on a trailer trash overlooking, sitting on the cliff. That had nothing to do with it. No. So, yeah, Paulson. So, well, this opens up. This is, as we've been saying, I think last week or the week before, the war is on. The war of savers versus speculators has begun, and that the vilification of savers, which I believe Keynes referred to it as the paradox of savings. It wasn't the paradox of savings, but the
paradox of thrift.
Yeah, the paradox of thrift, that if everyone's going to save money and they're not out there spending beyond their means, how can you grow an economy well above its carrying capacity? You got to go out there and rack up those debts, y'all. And, but this is rearing its ugly head on a new global scale because, of course, China has a huge savings account. So if you have a savings account, you must be like the Chinese. And, of course, the Chinese are trying to attack America, and they're terrorists because they're financial terrorists. There's a war against prudence.
But he also attacked the Brits. Okay, so in front of Congress, he blamed the Russians for trying to get the Chinese to sell their bonds. Now, today, I saw a review of his book. He's out with his book about the situation.
Who, Paulson?
Paulson.
Oh my God!
So he was literally talking his book in front of.
Oh my God!
In front of Congress.
Was the anarchist guide to Wall Street?
But today.
Steal this book, and I'll get paid triple on the insurance by Hank Paulson. What's this guy doing, man? How about a little polonium-210 action? That's what I'd like to see.
Well, he's already lost his hair. He's like made of kryptonite. He survived that, but he lost his hair.
God.
But today he blamed in the book, he apparently blames the Brits. He says the Brits screwed us on Lehman Brothers. He said Lehman Brothers collapsed only because of the British. Because he said, when he and Geithner were talking about it, and when Lehman was happening, they were ready to do a Bear Stearns sort of like merger, and so they were working on this merger with Barclays. But they said it's against the law in the U.S. at the time for the Fed to just bail out Lehman Brothers, which is why they couldn't bail it out. But he said, so we were trying to merge it with Barclays. And he said, we were screwed by the British because they were refusing to overlook a law there where the Barclays would have had to present it to the shareholders.
Mm-hmm.
So he's saying the British screwed us for not overlooking their own laws.
Right.
But we couldn't, disobey our own laws, break our own laws.
Right, okay. So he's blaming the British, he's blaming the Chinese, he's blaming the Russians, and he's blaming anyone who's against the dollar, like Bin Laden, of course, and Ahmadinejad.
Yeah, it's all like everything's so spontaneous and without any sort of weird cause. We're just, it's like, well, Helen Thomas, that, the famous question a few weeks ago where, after the Christmas bombing,
mm-hmm.
right? Or the attempted bombing of the airplane. And, all these mainstream media taking the talking points from Robert Gibbs and just like writing them down and not questioning. And Helen Thomas says, well, why do they hate us? Why do you guys keep on saying, why are they trying to attack us?
Yeah, what's their motivation?
What's their motivation? And there was like, well, because they're evil.
Right.
So this is like what you're starting to see emerge with all of this finance and economics. It's all just mysterious. Mysteriously, the Russians just want to hurt us. The Russians are mysteriously telling the Chinese to dump our bonds.
Mm-hmm.
And the Brits mysteriously just wouldn't go against their own laws. Like, everything is so, it doesn't make any sense. We're some sort of victim here.
Right. This is really unsettling because not only are these guys in Washington cowards, not only are they committing acts of unlawful behavior and securities fraud, but they're cowards on top of it. They're not even like James Cagney in some gangster movie where at the end he gets fried by the state and but goes down as a man, not as a coward. Or he pretends in one movie he pretends to be a coward because he's trying to set an example for the kids. It's a beautiful story about,
oh yeah, that's true. That's
what's it called, like in the heat of the something or other. But just to be also not only unscrupulous but cowardice. And these are the elected. These are not the elected, but these are the representatives of America. It just, as an American, it makes you just want to throw up. It's like, this is the best the country can offer, are thieves and cowards. I mean, come on, guys. If you're gonna steal, at least have some, spunk about it. Have some class about it. I'd rather see John Gotti, the dapper Don, run the Treasury Secretary. At least when he's lying to Congress, he can play with his pinky ring and show off his new suit and, make it a nice show. Like, this is what's great about Berlusconi. He's a crook. Yeah, of course. But he's a stylish crook. He's out there getting hair plugs. He's out there fooling around with some teenager. He makes it all look nice and fun. I can go with that because it's a charade. But to be a unscrupulous guy and a coward and to bully people with this, just mangling of the language and it's so pathetic.
I think it kind of reminds me of some really, really disturbed serial killing psychopath. Like, they lock somebody up in their basement, chain this woman to the floor, feed them some scraps, and do all sorts of horrible stuff to them. And then when the woman gets angry or whatever, they're like, "Why do you hate me? Everybody hates me." They're like some psychopathic serial killer who has some very, very serious mental disease.
Yeah, like Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, they're like, they are. Like, that's Hank Paulson, that guy.
That guy. He put his weenie between his legs and thought he was a woman. Remember that shot?
Now I'm picturing Hank Paulson doing that.
And he's saying to the woman in the little cave, "It puts the lotion on! It puts the lotion on!" Because he's trying to starve her and he's going to flay her and remove her skin to make a woman's suit while he's stuffing his weenie between his legs. And that's Hank Paulson. He's that guy. And the American people are in the pit. And they're being asked to put the lotion on.
All the world is in a pit.
Yeah.
So I think the American people are more like hanging on the side of the wall, thinking they're out there with the crazy guy, thinking that the crazy guy is going to protect them and keep them from being the woman in the pit.